In this session, I'll show how you can work with servers in VDB Builder. So I've started VDB Builder and I am currently connected to a live TID server. I've done a help. You can see when I do a help that there's several server commands that are available. Now these commands will only be available, a lot of them will only be available when I am connected to a server. You can do a show status. Again, the status will show you your repository that you're working in, your context. It will also show the server that you have defined and whether you're connected or not. So it shows here that I'm connected to my server. My server is localhost, and the admin port that I'm connecting to is 9999. So how can I change my server properties? There's a command called server show properties. So you can see here is my current server definition. There are no values, but you can see that a lot of them have defaults. So I've just got a default server set up, which is defaulting to localhost, admin port 9999. And so that is my default server that I have defined in VDB Builder. You can change the server properties by using the server set property. So if you do server set property and then hit tab, it will show you all the properties that you can change. So you can come in here, you can change your usernames, passwords, your host name, so you can connect to either local server or remote server, whatever you want to do. In my case, I'm connecting to a local server. Most of the server-specific commands have to do with viewing the artifacts that are on the deployed server. So if you're connected to a server, you can view the VDBs and data sources and so on that are deployed to that server. So if I type server VDBs, it's going to show me the names of all the VDBs on that server. In this case, I just have one VDB called VDB example DS. I can also show more details about the deployed server VDB. If I do a server VDB and then the name of the VDB, it tells me a little bit of detail about that VDB that's on the server. I can do the same thing with data sources. So there I've looked at all the data sources on my server, and I'm also looking at more details about example DS data source. You can also do that with data source types. So these are the built-in types that are available on a server, and plus I have my own custom type deployed on this server as well. You can find out more info about them. If I want to look at the Mongo type, it shows me all the properties associated with that. It shows me all the translators that are available on that server. You can also get details about a particular translator. So those are just commands for viewing the contents of a server. And again, of course, you have to be connected to that server to be able to execute those commands. Another thing you can do in VDB Builder is to retrieve the objects off of the connected server and pull them into your workspace. So I'm connected to a server. Let's look at one of the VDBs. Again, we just have the one VDB. Now we want to retrieve the VDB off the server and put it in our VDB Builder workspace. So to do that, we're going to do a server get VDB, hit tab, and it gives me the only VDB that's on the server. And there it's gone out to the server and it's pulled it down into my workspace. So if I do a list, it will show there's the VDB in my workspace. I can edit it or do whatever I want with it at this point. I can do the same thing with data sources. So say I want to get the example DS data source off my server into my workspace. Let's go ahead and do a server get data source. And there we've copied the server data source into our VDB Builder workspace. So at this point, you have the objects in your VDB Builder workspace. You can edit them, do whatever you want with them, deploy them to that server under a different name. You can connect to a different server and deploy them to a different server, whatever you want to do. You can also undeploy artifacts from the server. Of course, you have had to log in as admin to have this privilege, but let's look at how you can undeploy from the connected server. So here are the data sources on the server. If I want to undeploy, say I want to undeploy example DS from that server. I've just undeployed it. Let's go and look at the server data sources. You can see that it's undeployed. And we can do the same thing with the VDB. So let's look at the VDBs. And we're going to undeploy VDB example DS from the server. It says it was undeployed successfully. Let's take a look at the list again on the server. And now it says there's no VDBs, so it's been undeployed. So now we've showed how to undeploy artifacts from the server. Now we're going to go the other way. We're going to deploy artifacts from our VDB Builder workspace to the server. So let's go ahead and deploy a data source first. So we did a listing of what's on the server. We can see that we have one data source, Salesforce DS. Now we want to deploy example DS. So now we're going to deploy example DS from our workspace to the server. And it says it was successful. Let's take a look. So now we have those two data sources on our server. And we can do the same thing with the VDB. So we're going to do a server deploy VDB. And we're going to give it VDB example DS. It says it was deployed successfully. And so we'll do a listing of the server VDBs. And there we go. So this shows several things that you can do, from viewing artifacts on the server to retrieving them into your VDB Builder workspace, and also deploying them from VDB Builder to a server. So it just opens up a lot of possibilities that you can do from this tool. So that ends this session, and we hope that you will join us for future sessions. Thank you.